So, Chester, are you ready to make a documentary?
Sure, but should I be the one videoing you?
Oh yeah, right. So, good day everyone. We are right now here at the Liwasang Rizal or Rizal Park, which is alongside Rojas Boulevard. And it has been a favorite leisure spot which is frequented in Sundays and national holidays. It is also a major tourist attraction of the city of Manila. It is also an important historical site in the history of the Philippines because Dr. Rizal is executed here on December 30, 1896. That monument enshrining his remains serves as the park's symbolic focal point. There are also a lot of events that occurred here in the park, like the declaration of the Philippine independence from the Americans and the political rally of Corazon Aquino, which culminated the EDSA revolution. And the latest is the Million People March against the pork barrel scam. But what are the points of interest here in the park? So, Chester, let's go. So here's our first stop. On this spot, on February 17, 1872, Fathers Jose Burgos, Mariano Gomez, and Jacinto Zamora or the Gomburza fathers were executed for alleged complicity with the military uprising in Cavite on January 20, 1872, and they were executed by garrote. So basically, that's our first stop. Now let's move on to the next. So this is the Chinese garden. This is the park's open ground, which is home to various groups like the Kali, Eskrima, Filipino martial arts groups. Every morning, especially on Sundays, escrimadors or eskrima practitioners can be seen at the Luneta. Even up to the present, stick fighting duels are still very common, albeit in a friendly atmosphere. Various physical fitness groups doing aerobics at the park are also present on weekends. And if you're getting tired, you could always ride the mini train here in Luneta. It's cool, right? Made in the Philippines. So this is the famous dancing fountain of the Luneta Park, and as you can see on its sides are the different sculptures of the different Filipinos that played an important role in our history. So let's start with Pantaleon Villegas. Pantaleon is a native of Bacong, Negros Oriental. He worked in Cebu and Manila, where he was inducted into the Katipunan and took the name Leon Kilan. Upon returning to Cebu, he organized the revolutionary movement in the province and started the revolution on April 3, 1898. And next is Vicente Alvarez. He is a high official in the Spanish colonial government. He joined the Katipunan and started the revolution in Zamboanga in March 1898. And this one is Gregorio Aglipa, a former Catholic priest who championed the Filipinization of the Philippine Catholic Church after the execution of the Gomburza. He was a Vicar General of the Philippine Revolutionary Army and represented Ilocos Norte as one of the framers of the Philippine Constitution at Malolos and member of the Revolutionary Congress. And this was very famous. He's Marcelo H. del Pilar, known as Plaridel. He was a nationalist and one of the greatest propagandists of the reform movement. He authorized pamphlets attacking the abuses of the friars and became the publisher of the La Solidaridad in 1889. He later advocated a revolutionary path to freedom but was cut short by his death from malnutrition and overwork. And this one, Datu Amay Pakpa. The chief of Marawi, Datu Amay Pakpa, was also known as Dato Kabir, who bravely resisted the Spanish campaigns to subjugate Lanao. He was killed while defending his quota during the Blanco campaign in 1895. And this one's also a Sultan, which is Sultan Dipatuan Kudarat, a direct descendant of Sharif Kabungsuan, who propagated Islam in Mindanao. He was able to defend successfully his domain from Spanish incursions. He was a wise ruler and a good administrator. He encouraged his people to develop agriculture and to trade with non-Muslim Filipinos. Then let's move forward. Next on our list is Aman Danga, the chief of Malakdang Batanes, who led an uprising of the Ibatans in 1791. Armed only with native weapons, he and his men battled the Spanish forces for 3 days and was captured and publicly executed to instill fear among the people. So next in our list is Mateo Carino, the Ibaloy chieftain of Benguet, who led a successful revolt against the Spanish garrison in La Trinidad in 1898. Next is Apolinario Mabini. Overcoming extreme poverty and a crippling paralysis, he became known as the brain of the Philippine Revolution. He was also one of the chief advisors of President Emilio Aguinaldo. Another is Graciano Lopez Haina, a pure writer and orator. He was one of the Filipino propagandists seeking reform for the Philippines. He founded and became the first editor of the newspaper La Solidaridad, which became the organ of the reform movement in Spain. And also, next in line is Dato Ache, a Tausug chieftain who commanded Sultan Bongso's force of warriors in repelling an armada of 80 ships with 600 Spaniards and 3,000 Christian Filipino allies, led by Governor Sebastian Hurtado de Corcuera on January 4, 1638. Next is Francisco Dagohoy. Enraged by the refusal of a Spanish friar to bury his brother, he led a rebellion against the Spanish rule, which lasted from 1744 to 1829. The rebellion, which was also fueled by excesses of the Spaniard authorities, lasted for more than 80 years, the longest in Philippine history. And here is a very famous hero of our history. He is Lapu-Lapu, the chieftain of the small island of Mactan. On April 27, 1521, with a force of more than 1,000 followers, Lapu-Lapu defeated Magellan, killing him. His victory over the Spaniards delayed the colonization of the Philippines until 1567. And here is Francisco Maniago, a leader of the village in Mexico, Pampanga, who led a revolt in protest against forced labor and confiscation of rice by the Spaniards. He blocked the mouths of the rivers of Pampanga to stop commerce with Manila. His rebellion ended with the acceptance of his demands by the Spaniards. Second to the last is Juan Sumuroy. He's a brilliant military leader who led the people of Samar in opposing the conscription of men from their homes to work in the shipyards of Cavite. He won several victories against the Spaniards and their allies. He resisted for a year and was captured and executed. And last but not the least is Apolinario de la Cruz. He's a deeply religious man and was known as Hermano Pule. Being a native, he was refused entry into the clergy. He later founded a religious confraternity known as the Confradia de San Jose, in which the members worship according to their own conscience. And on the other side, as you can see, is the Rizal Park open air auditorium. Sad to say, it is closed, so we cannot enter it. So we just have to move on to the next spot, which is the Japanese Garden. So now this is the Japanese Garden.